Welcome to day 180 of the 300 movie challenge. Today we watched the highest grossing film of May 2009, which was Up.
We've all seen this before.
Yes.
How recently though?
I haven't seen it in the last couple years or something. I saw part of it like a few months ago, but
Last time I saw it was in high school, so it's been a while.
Yeah, for me, I watched it a lot. I believe I mentioned this during the Kung Fu Panda discussion that that was how the Kung Fu Panda was one of the movies that I had to watch while I was out for my eye operation. And then this was another one. So I watched this a lot, during that month basically, because what the hell else was I gonna do? Well, especially at least the week or so where I had to. Well, it was 5 days where I literally had to face downward 24 hours a day. So yeah. Anyway, so I saw this a lot then, but I hadn't really seen it since. And so this was actually this is right at the beginning of 2010. So it was because my operation actually was it was shortly after Christmas in 2009.
Oh, yeah.
So so that's when I saw this a lot. I feel like I must have seen it at least once since then, but I can't remember. So for all intents and purposes, I'm saying that the last time I saw it was 2010.
Okay.
So
me and cried through half the movie.
I started. Valen was weep quieter in the beginning.
Well, okay.
So.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so there were three major portions where I full on ugly cried, but I was technically crying throughout about half the movie, which is probably why I sound terrible.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
I can agree with you in the portions that you cried, because you can't help but feel it tugging at your heart and everything.
I'm about to cry again right now.
The first 10 minutes are the saddest minutes ever. Because you're oh, that's so cute. You're seeing them grow up. And then you're wait a minute. You're seeing them grow older and older. And no.
Yeah.
So, I'm about to ruin your life.
Okay.
Oh, no.
I don't cry from the first 10 minutes.
Well,
I cry somewhere else.
Wait, was it the...
I cry when he looks at the book again.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that was the second part.
I muted because I knew that I would just start sobbing.
That is probably the harder one to go through.
Yeah.
It was that and then the very end.
Yeah.
And watching this was very interesting for me because I'm coming at it now from a perspective of it. Well, I don't know how to explain this. The whole point of Mr. Fredrickson's character is that he's trying to do something that he felt he just couldn't do before with someone he loved. Right?
Yeah.
That's the basis where he starts. And I guess now as someone who is in love with somebody, I was seeing that whole thought process completely differently than I had before.
That makes sense.
Where it's there are these things that you want to do with this person. And it is kind of, because again, part of this is really realizing, again, for him, it's what's truly important here, right? And again, that's the whole thing about looking at the book again, where it's yeah, sure, going to Paradise Falls, okay, fine, but the important thing was just doing things with the person you love, right?
Yeah.
And then when that person's gone, like, then what? And it's just, I don't really know how to describe this that well, but like those emotions and like the thought processes of that, and like thinking about myself and my own situation and who I love and all that kind of stuff, it hit me really hard
Yeah.
on like a really, you know, like personal level of like
I
shit, you know.
think I can agree with you too, because the last time that I saw this, I don't think. I mean, everything still tugged and it was still really sad and everything, but I think I understood the full scope of it better this time around, especially since at the time I hadn't lost anyone, but
Mhm.
now knowing that there is someone that's not coming back or anything too is
Mhm.
kind of a whole different experience in that sort of sense. And then not only that, but in this movie, you mentioned it a bit too, Valen. It's kind of like there's this whole thing of like material versus like experience, I
Mhm.
guess.
Well, it's the whole part of
Well,
like
not experience,
it's
like
what's truly important in your life.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because throughout the movie, like in the whole beginning and everything, he cherishes, but then when you get to the end of it, he realizes the fact that the house is just a house in the end. But if he loses, he lost Ellie, but he could potentially lose other people that truly cared for him too and stuff. And that he's also grown to care for too. It kind of also brings into perspective, like, there is romantic love, but there are also different kinds of love too.
Mhm.
Like, like each one of them, like Doug represents like the love you feel for a pet. Kevin would be like,
Like the goodness of your heart to like help a stranger.
yeah, and then Russell is like how you would feel to like a child or
Mhm.
something.
It took me a while to realize that Russell is actually like the child that Carl and Ellie never had.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that the first time I watched it, but I kind of realized because Russell doesn't have a good relationship with his father, which is actually something that's talked about at length.
Yeah.
yeah,
But at the same
So
time, it's talked about a decent amount, but it's not like
it's
it's
definitely not. Yeah,
in your face
it's
and
yeah.
not
everything.
brought to the foreground, but you can see why he does certain things and how he acts certain ways, and then in the end, when you see Carl go with him to the badge earning
Mhm.
scene.
Yeah,
Even just with like again romantic love, it's not, there's so many different ways that it can be expressed, and
yeah,
it's that like again, it's that whole realization of like it's not what you do, it's just that you're doing something with the person you love,
yeah,
right? And having that be your motivation and going from there. And because it's one of those things where it's like, you know, he finally gets the house to where it's supposed to be, right?
yeah,
And then he has that moment where he's like, well shit, now what?
Yeah.
yeah,
Right? Because that was never the important thing. Right? The important thing was again being with Ellie, and then when that's gone and he's like, well, this is the only thing that's left, so I guess that's what I'm gonna do now. But then the whole point is, well, no, now you gotta get something else. Right?
yeah.
An actual purpose to something that gives you, a continuous reason to just, keep going, really, if you want to think of it that way. And
Mm,
yeah, I don't know, this. If you'd asked me, you know, before today, honestly, what my favorite Pixar movie was. I would have said Incredibles with Wall-E close behind, and then probably this after that. And after watching this now, I liked this more than The Incredibles. It hit closer than The Incredibles did. And now I'm just saying, like, shit, now I need to see Wall-E again. Which I am mad that we did not see Wall-E during this challenge. So, you know, good job on that. Actually, let me check.
The good thing is that it lost to Kung Fu Panda.
Oh, that was what it was, right? Okay, I forgot what it
Yeah,
was.
so
That's something.
it wasn't. It would have been good either way if we got either of them.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I didn't realize how much this actually hit on so many levels and everything too. Another interesting thing I also found with it too was they're all kind of outcasts. Well, not. They're all kind of.
yeah,
They kind of feel lonely, I guess.
Yeah, they're all very
Yeah.
lonely.
yeah, in their own, and then again in their own ways, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have the kind of, the old guy who sees, like, things that he used to like kind of slip away and he doesn't have a place anymore. And then there's the kid lonely, where it's just you feel like just you're kind of, don't know what to do, and you're kind of like, here's a thing I can do, but I'm not that great at it, but I want to do it. But you're like, so yeah, it's very relatable, like, again, kids and adults, which is something just Pixar in general just does really well.
There's also Doug too, because he tries really hard to fulfill his mission and stuff,
Yeah.
but you can see that he's an outcast in terms of the pack and everything too.
Yeah. And hell, you could even argue the Charles Muntz guy is the same.
Oh
similar,
yeah.
too,
Yeah.
right.
Because
He
he
told,
was,
I
like,
was
he was
wronged.
laughed
Everyone
at.
ridiculed me. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so that's like a negative, and that's kind of like saying, like, look, sometimes you don't fit in, but you don't have to turn that into vengeance,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I think that happens to a lot of people, is like, they feel like they're kind of excluded from things and they get bitter about it.
Yeah.
And the point is, I'm thinking, and I kind of was like that a little bit for a while, thinking kind of like early high school maybe, where I felt like, it's kind of that whole thing, like, why can't I be a cool kid? You know what I mean? It's that kind of thought process that I'm sure everyone has at some point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, you kind of realize you don't need to, as long as you just have enough people in the right places for you. Right? And I think that's something that people just don't, I don't know a lot, but some number of people don't get that, and they just get this sense of, like, all these things they quote-unquote could have without realizing, what they do have available to them, and, going through that way. I don't know how much I want to say about this, but there was kind of a similar situation I actually had with Julie really early on in a relationship, where I kind of had this moment where I'm like, look at all this, look at how we are right now, right? And this is, wonderful right now. And it's like, sure, is there this tiny chance that doing something else could possibly be better? Sure, but why chase that when what you have is amazing already? Right? And again, it's realizing also that it is amazing to begin with, because you tend to, if you don't really think about this, you kind of become complacent with what you have, and you think, oh yeah, whatever, I have it, who cares, right? It's kind of like the whole thing about, like, you don't realize, like, how nice it is to feel healthy until you get sick, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's similar kind of vein to that. And I think also what's really nice is that as a character, as a main character, Carl is, you completely understand every decision he makes.
Yeah.
Right? Even if it's not the quote-unquote good decision, it makes total sense from his perspective. Like,
Yeah.
everything about it. So again, like when, for example, he, his house was burning, right? And he like
Yeah.
went to save it. Like that 100% makes sense,
Yeah.
from his perspective. And like, so again, it's that, Pixar does this really well, where you really like, you understand the main character in terms of like how he, behaves and how he works and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That too, speaking of him, interesting too that you have a main character. Yes, you see like Indiana Jones from like and stuff where they showed him older, but he still was able to do a lot of the things that he did and everything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But here it's like he is an old man. He has a walker.
Yeah.
The whole fight scene and everything.
Oh, that was
they
really
fall
funny.
through out
Mhm.
their backs and everything. And
Yeah.
he has to go through all the trouble with that and stuff. He has a hearing aid, he has glasses, and all those things. So it's kind of like you don't really see like someone that age usually be the main character like this
Yeah.
kind of movie and stuff. So
Yeah, that was kind of what I was going to mention before. I appreciate the fact that we are following an elderly person as a main character. I mean, it could also be because I watched The Golden Girls, so I generally enjoy older characters for certain types of situations, but I guess the thing with like older characters is it's weird to say that sometimes they're a little bit relatable because they've gone through everything. So it's I guess it's easier to get into their head to some extent because they are so
Mhm.
comfortable with themselves, and they're kind of at that stage where they're not holding that much back anymore, because like in the beginning you see him, he's like kind of grumpy and like he hits the guy because he tried to like touch his mailbox, and he's a very sentimental person. You can tell that really easily.
Mhm.
So I'm just like crying it through half the review too now.
Well, more than half, but
More than half.
it's okay. I think everyone understands. Don't worry.
I think that speaks to how much I like this movie. If I'm crying throughout like 90% of it.
And then, something else also, like you mentioned again, because he's old and he, like, physically he kind of has to deal with that. At the same time, though, like, if you really wanted to, you could, like, pick apart the movie in terms of, like, there's no way this could happen and no way that could happen and all that kind of stuff, right? But, like, when you're, well, at least for me, and I think this is for most people, when you watch this, you don't care about all of that. You know what I mean? It's like, because
Exactly.
that's not what the story's about. It's not supposed to be a
Right.
realistic story, right? So,
Yeah, because I mean the basis of this movie is that the guy has lifted up his house with balloons.
yeah.
Yeah.
How you can't really come into this in a scientific perspective.
Yeah, exactly. Because, like, I know there's issues with, like, movies where we've kind of nitpicked in terms of, like, oh, but this would never really happen. And I feel like for a lot of those movies, it's put out more as, like, oh, but this is a thing that could actually happen, and they try to, like, science it up. And it's like, well, no, you're putting the focus then on this, so then I have to address it, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a movie coming up later this year that I'll be addressing that for.
Oh boy.
So, but for something like this, it's like, sure, I could pick apart the physics of why this doesn't work, but that's not ever an emphasis in this story. So it's
Yeah.
not something I feel like I need to do. So it's something, because I know I'm sure there's going to be somebody who's going to be like, well, you picked apart the things in this movie, why not this? And it's like, well, this is why. It's not the focus of the story, and you get lost in the characters and the emotion and all that kind of stuff. And that's what matters. What matters is not, the physics of a flying house. So,
Because there is no physics to a
Yeah.
flying house.
No.
so, yeah, and just wanted to mention that. And
Well,
Yeah.
that's where suspension of disbelief comes in.
exactly.
So if you do it well, then you have situations where you can fly a house, you can fly a dodo, you can have like, people tethering themselves to their house to walk it across
Yeah.
a jungle, and
can
you
have
don't care.
talking
'Cause-
dogs.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because you accept that that's reality in this setting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. And
Oh, speaking of dogs, in Ratatouille, did you guys notice that there was actually a dog in that movie whose shadow looked like Doug?
oh yeah.
I think that was
Yeah,
pointed
that was
out.
supposed to be the point of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I remember, I forgot what the thing is in this movie that points to the next one. I forgot what it is. I feel like
What
it's
is-
something. I feel like it's something where, in the beginning when like the house like lifts up and there's like that scene of like a girl in like her bedroom and like the balloons go by the window.
Mm.
I think it's something in her room, but I can't remember what it is.
Oh, well, I wasn't paying attention to the
Yeah,
room.
I specifically was
Really?
trying to look in that scene, but I couldn't see anything, so I don't know. I also don't remember what the next Pixar movie even is, so
I have no idea.
I can't comment. Actually, is it Toy Story
reference-
3?
The only reference I remember is the Star Wars reference.
Oh yeah, at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I remember.
Let me see.
Is the next
What was the
Pixar movie
next
Toy Story 3?
Let's see.
I don't
Yes.
know.
Yes, it is.
It is. Okay, then maybe it's something there. I don't know. Oh wow, yeah,
Oops.
Toy Story 3 is in like a year. Damn.
Reference to Toy Story 3 and
But yeah, so I mean, coming into this year, I think we were all pretty certain this was going to be the best movie of the year. But even then, I still liked it more than I thought I would, and I thought I would like it quite a lot. So
apparently, I doubt that we're going to notice this. But apparently, there's a sad Easter egg in Toy Story 3 where on Andy's bulletin board there's a postcard from Carl and Ellie.
oh, I guess that's that. I don't know what else I can bring to the table here.
I think that is it.
Sorry, you guys had to hear me cry for 20 minutes, but
Yeah, pretty
it
much.
is what it is.
I'm trying to see if I can get. Oh, okay. Easter eggs, and there's the guy that has had an appearance in every Pixar movie.
Oh yeah, I mentioned that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Uh,
I guess that's it for up. Next
Yeah.
movie. Oh boy.
Oh no.
We have another franchise that we're starting in the middle of.
Hmm.
You know, after the movie last month, or, the last one before Up,
You mean Fast and Furious?
yeah,
yeah.
to be honest, I don't know if I'm gonna like this more or less.
I don't know either.
It's gonna go fast. But will we be furious? That is the question.
I mean, the movie's like almost 2.5 hours long, so
Oh my
it's not
god.
gonna be fast.
Time to die.
Ugh, there's so many long movies coming up. Ugh.
I know. What is wrong with like having a normal sized movie?
I don't know. Like literally the next 3 movies are like 2.5 hours. Ugh. Like I've
Oh,
seen some
man.
people say like, movies like should like only be like 90 minutes long, and I'm like, well, no, that's too short for a lot of plots. But I'm like, if it takes like noticeably more than 2 hours, you need a damn good reason for having them be that long. Like Lord of the Rings, okay, fine, right? That's a good reason.
Yeah.
But some of this, I'm like, do we really need 2.5 hours of the next month's movie? And the sad thing is the other movies in that franchise, which we unfortunately will be watching also, are even longer. So
On that lovely note,
Yes.
we depart.
Yes.
I.
We leave May on a high note.
Oh wait, yeah. Can we say the adventures out there?
Oh, I was trying to make a pun because it's on a high note because it's up. But
Oh yeah.
anyway. Anyway, bye.
I.
Bye.